Hello, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Ross Levanto. I'm a Senior Vice President at Highwire PR. And this is the second episode in our series, PR Forever Changed, that talks about how the role of a PR person perhaps has been changed forever thanks to what we're all going through and are going through related to the coronavirus. Our guest today, I'm really excited to have him on. His name is Tim Washer. Super funny guy, but also someone who has held very senior roles helping brands like Cisco and IBM tell their stories. He was actually a global video content marketing exec at IBM. So excited to have him on today. Tim, welcome aboard.
Hey, Ross, how are you? Thanks for having me.
You bet. And our topic today is to talk about how content has changed in the last 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks, the importance of content, the importance of digital content, and what that means for PR people, how PR people could potentially seize this opportunity to help their clients and help the industries they represent move forward and move their businesses forward. So thrilled to have you on board. And first off, Tim, just want to make sure you're healthy, your family's healthy.
Yeah.
Certainly priorities are put in perspective with all we've gone through over the last few weeks. So happy to hear that.
Yeah, we're all good. I got a 16-year-old daughter and a 12-year-old boy, and they're healthy. My daughter misses school. My son is thrilled that he doesn't have to go to school. So,
You've got both ends of the spectrum right
yes,
there.
we're dealing
right?
with it. Yeah,
For sure.
right.
So, well, let's talk a little bit about online digital content for tech PR and for PR across innovative industries. We're all stuck in front of our screens, right? So as someone who likes to produce great content, you're thinking this is a great opportunity to finally do it right. What's your thinking in this age of constant 100% always on digital content?
Yeah, I listen, as a comedy producer, I'm happy to see that that I think more people are going to be open. More people are realizing, okay, we do need to bring some levity. We owe it to our viewers to bring a little laughter into their lives. Maybe you don't owe it to them, but it is certainly a way to serve them. People are trying to figure out, how do we serve our audience? I think it's critical that as content creators that we're good stewards of the attention span of our audience, and traditionally, not everybody does that, and we still got a long way to go into figuring that all out. But I'm certainly happy that there's probably going to be an opportunity to be more creative. Or excuse me, I should say that people are aware that they need to change. Like they need to create their content in a different way. Yeah, I think the awareness is the first step.
Pardon the pun, but a lot of companies are looking at this as a blank canvas. They have an opportunity, given that the marketing priorities they've had and the marketing opportunities they've had have shifted away from physical events, to rethink how they approach creating digital content and the type of digital content that would work for their audiences. What's your advice to them? How do you get them to focus and make sure that they're really making the content compelling?
Well, so right now people, so many brands feel they have an obligation to acknowledge the period that we're in, the era that we're in, and you don't. We all know these are, we all know there's anxiety in the system. You don't need to open up. Every commercial opens up with this idea about how we're in trying times, and we don't want to. We know that. We don't need to be reminded of that. So I think what I think we're still figuring it out, but I'll tell you some advertisers that are doing a good job with what I'll call digital content. Progressive. One thing that, like, I saw something the other day, Progressive Insurance, where Flo and her team are on a Zoom call.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. And Ross, they jump right into it. There's no talk about COVID at all, about, just being trying times. There's none of that. They jump right into a Zoom call. And a simple formula that content providers, that PR folks can follow, is to say, all right, what's the pain point that we're all dealing with right now? And so there are a lot of, we know all the grievances of the Zoom call, right? And you can build off of those. Now, the opportunity for PR folks is to say, let me look at my specific customer, let's say in the healthcare space. What are the issues and the problems that they are dealing with that my company can help solve? And take those issues and, a lot of comedy comes from pain. And when you focus on a pain point in your content, you're winning because you build empathy. You're letting your customer know, your client know that, hey, look, we get this. We understand this is difficult for you. And we're also going to, bring a little bit of levity to it, but it's all going to be around you and the struggle you're going into. Yeah, so I think that's a great place to start.
Yeah, I would imagine you have experience, probably frustrates the heck out of you to see a lot of content online that just is kind of hackneyed and using tactics that aren't attractive. Give me some examples of things that you wish were banned from kind of the content creator's playbook.
Oh, I'd say, you know, I don't know how you could put a ban on this because here's the thing. I've seen I'm so familiar with where the train starts to go off the track. Somebody will have a great idea. It could be the agency, it could come internally. And they'll pitch this idea and everybody's on board. And then as you go through this the committee review process, people start bringing these, well, going to offend anybody. We've never done something like this before. What if we get negative comments on YouTube? All those things start to come up. And then what happens is we feel like, okay, we need to get consensus here. We need to work together. We need to compromise, okay, and make it a win-win. And we think that means compromise and give up and make the idea less creative so it's more mainstream and more similar to every other piece of content we've ever produced. And that's a terrible idea. So a lot of times what will happen is just out of this need for emotional safety, we'll think of the buzzwords or mentioning the product. We can't go wrong with that. People feel safe. We know we're not going to get fired for mentioning our product. We know we're not going to get fired for mentioning a buzzword that everybody agrees to, that we've heard our CEO say 1,000 times. And unfortunately, often you'll end up producing a piece of content that's all centered around this stuff that we know is safe and we know we're not going to get in trouble for. That's what's frustrating to me because I think there are so many wonderful opportunities, that end up in the graveyard because of this fear about my job kind of thing.
So there's an opportunity, or there's too much of a tendency, shall we say, to play to the safe zone, so to speak.
Yes, that's right.
Know will pass muster.
And of course the irony is playing safe is the riskiest thing we can do because then we'll just end up producing pablum and it won't stick out and it just will go up on YouTube and we'll get 400 views all from people in our marketing department. Yeah. So I think one of the things that PR folks, marketing people can do is to keep the committee small. Have a larger committee like now where we have to say, okay, what's going to be our approach in this COVID world? How are we going to deal with things? How are we going to communicate? So figure all that out, but then say, all right, we'll put a blog post up somewhere. It's so funny. A lot of people complain about getting all these emails from every vendor they've ever done business with, announcing their COVID policy about how they're cleaning stuff and wearing masks. Nobody wants that. It's just a waste of time and it's spam in the inbox. So don't communicate that. You can put it out somewhere if you feel the need to have it on your website, do that. But I think for most brands, they don't need to lead their content with that. So figure out your big brand overall. Here's how we're going to change things going forward. And then say, all right, let's take each individual campaign or each launch we have coming up, and let's keep it to a very small committee. At IBM, sometimes it was just me writing a script, and that was it. And I'd have to go to a vice president for approval, and that was it. And that was the secret to getting good work done, because there wasn't a huge group of people trying to pick away at something. So if you keep the committee small, and it's a lot easier to protect these creative ideas. I'd recommend that is a possibility.
One other thing I want to talk to you about too, which I notice is a habit that I try to avoid, is a lot of times you forget to mix up the type of content or the approach you're taking. You know what I mean? Like there's so much focus on, okay, let's get this in the funnel or let's affect someone's buying habit, that you forget that we are consumers of content, meaning we like to consume a lot of different types of content from the brands that we interact with.
That's right. And this happens a lot in the B2B space. And that's where most of my career has been. And I think part of it is like at IBM, we were selling, multi-million dollar mainframe systems. So you think about producing a comedy, and of course, for many people, the first thought is, why in the world would we do that? This is going to be a 2 year long selling cycle. Okay. There's going to be, 50 people involved in the decision. The CFO is going to have to sign off on this. He or she probably doesn't have a sense of humor. And there's serious decisions being made to spend $2 million on a product. Where does comedy fit in? Well, what we miss there is, especially when we're doing social outreach on Facebook, when the CFO is on his or her Facebook page, they are not looking for a white paper. Okay, they're competing with we're competing with all these other funny videos, or videos, pictures of my kids or my aunt's kids and my niece, nephews. It should be a fairly joyful time. Okay, if I block all of the politics, right? So if we want to reach somebody in that social space with content, then we need to play in that area. We need to compete with something that's enjoyable. We need to try to create joy in our content. And I think that goes a long way to the point that you made. It helps us figure out, or helps us stay focused on, okay, we need a mix. Yes, we have to have serious stuff. Yes, we have to have analysts in here, right? We have to have serious podcasts and videos and all that stuff. But at the same time, why not have a little levity here as well?
Tim, I mentioned you're a really funny guy. It's really hard to write funny. It's really hard to
Yeah.
produce funny content. How do you prepare yourself? What's your life like that creates this? What advice can you give to someone that wants to try to be funny, quote unquote?
Well, so
Perhaps the first place to start is not to try to be funny, but there you go. I'll let you
yeah,
take it from
so
here.
look, that's a really important point. I'll talk to, like, I'll be at a conference. You remember when you're probably too young to remember conferences. There were 1,000 people in a room, a couple
I
thousand.
remember Comdex
All
back
right.
in the day. Comdex.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So, uh, there, there- when I was speaking at something like that, and people would come up afterwards or ask a question, they'd always say, "Oh, we tried comedy once." I'd hear that question all the time,
Yeah.
and then I'd ask, "Well, what happened?" Well, yeah, it didn't go over well. Okay, well, tell me about the process. Well, you know what? We had Helen and accounts payable write a script. I'm like, has she ever written comedy before? Well, no, but she hasn't written comedy before. Well, there you go. You need to give it a fair chance. And I'll tell people, it doesn't take a huge budget. Find a local. It doesn't have to be local. You can do all this virtually now, of course. But sometimes people, they like to see and meet people when they're doing comedy. It just kind of reduces the risk a bit. So I always tell people to look at go to an improv theater that's in your town, and we'll be able to do those hopefully in a month or two. Go back to improv
Sure.
uh, theaters, but reach out online to an improv theater and say, look, we'd like to, can we hire some of you people to write a script for us, and then set up a Zoom, and get on the phone and talk about, here's our customers' problems that we need to solve, and then give them put guardrails up for them. You don't want to micromanage. Gosh, don't micromanage, but just put guardrails up and say, okay, listen, keep religion out of it, politics out of it. We don't want to talk about COVID, except for maybe some of the problems that people face, but let's try to avoid COVID, and then let them go off and see what they come up with. Because if you haven't written comedy before, it's just like if you're, if you're an engineer at Boeing, you're not going to call somebody in here and say, hey, why don't you have a shot at designing the next, the next jet engine?
Sure.
No, you get somebody who has experience at it. So get that done first as your approach. But then I think it's also a good idea to explore different, to practice some on your own, even if the goal is not to be a comedian. It can be very joyful to just play around and make yourself laugh. And one thing I like to do with I'll do workshops on how to write a caption. I'll start there, and we'll look at people's. We'll have them all bring a photo, and then we'll talk about ways to use irony, or to use contrast, or to use approaches like just heightening, exaggeration or hyperbole. And people start exploring, and they have fun, and just they'll get to a pretty funny caption, but even along the way, they have a good time just playing around. Yeah, but
Well,
that takes some time to work on.
I certainly think we're in a time when all the laughter we can have in our lives
Yeah,
is definitely welcomed. So, well, Tim, thank
that's
you
right,
so
Ross.
much.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
sure thing. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of look. There's so much value in creating joy for someone. And if it's your clients, oh my goodness, we're all so eager to have some laughter and joy in our lives. And why not offer that? Why not offer that gift to your client? Yeah.
For sure. Well, Tim, listen, thank you so much for spending a little time here this afternoon, and best of luck to you. Stay healthy, and I'm sure we'll see you soon, and hopefully see you in person soon as we
Hey, I'll look forward to it.
work through this new reality. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Thanks, Ross.